Welcome all of you who may be unforgiving right now. And I know you're sitting here and you're like, I'm not an unforgiving person, I'm a Christian. Forgiveness is a struggle that we all must face. So today, we are going to be talking about the process of forgiveness. And before we even talk more in the subsequent days this week about forgiveness, I want to explain to you why we call it a process. Here's what you need to know about forgiveness. It's a process, not an event. A lot of times what we do is we say, well, I forgave that person, it's over, it's forgiven. But really you haven't, because you know in your heart you haven't. You know that when you see them, you're still assigning that offense to their charge. You're still treating them according to their offense that they've hurt you. You're still treating them based on the way that they mistreated you. So I'm here to tell you that's natural. But that's because you haven't recognized the forgiveness is a process. It's not a one and done deal. The decision to forgive happens once, but the process of forgiveness, that's a whole other story. And I'm going to tell you a little secret you might not know. The people in your life that have been jerks to you, the people that have hurt you, here's the thing. They can do it more than once. What? I know, right? Like, you didn't know that. You thought that anyone and everyone could only hurt you one time and then you forgive them one time. But no, I know you didn't know this. You needed me to tell you that people can be jerks more than once. So, with that in mind, how do you forgive someone that's hurt you a lot? Or how do you forgive someone that's hurt you in a big way with a lot of magnitude? Well, Jesus pretty much sums this up when Peter discusses the frequency of forgiveness. In Matthew chapter 18, verse 21 through 22, it says, Then Peter came up and said to Jesus, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? He says, what's the threshold here? Like, how many times? He says, as many as 7 times. And Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 70 times 7. So now, this is where some of you that are super like letter of the law, you're going to be like, okay, 490 times. I know that my spouse has annoyed me at least 491 times. Therefore, I do not have to forgive them. No, you're missing the point. Jesus is talking in an exaggerated way about how often we should forgive. And he says, you want to limit it to 7, but really I'm saying 7 times 70. It should be a lot more than what you expect. And really what this comes down to is you should forgive constantly, even if people hurt you repeatedly. But this says something else. This gives a little bit of an insight, in my opinion, just as something, when I look at how forgiveness works, to the fact that forgiveness is a process. If you have been, and I'm just putting this out there, if you have been hurt by a parent, like if you grew up in an abusive home where your parents have beat you, or they mistreated you, or they did something, they physically abused you, whatever they did to you, okay, that's not going to be a one day you're like, oh, I just forgive them, it's fine. You might make that choice, but there's going to come a holiday when you recall something that happened in your past. There's going to come an interaction that you have with another member of your family, and your subconscious is going to draw up all of this bad memory that you thought was dead, and now it's come back to bite you. What do? You stop and you say forgiveness is a process. It's not an event. It's a process. And right now, I'm taking that person to the cross because that's the seat of forgiveness. Not whether or not they're repentant, not how big the offense is, but the cross, the magnitude by which God has forgiven us. That becomes the basis. And you might have to take them to the cross on a daily basis. And if they just recently hurt you, it might be on an hourly basis. It might be on a minute-by-minute basis. But forgiveness has to be your goal, because forgiveness has more to do with our relationship to our Heavenly Father than it does to the magnitude by which you've been hurt. So I want to challenge you today to embrace the fact that you are not an unforgiving person because you haven't grasped the idea that forgiveness is not an event. It's a process. And so if you want to forgive, you sometimes have to keep going back, forgiving again and again.